Travelling at night is always a risky experience, whether it be driving, on public transport, active transport, or even just walking. You never know what will happen. Violence, murder, drugs, alcohol, tiredness and loneliness all under the cloak of darkness. Back in the early 2010s, CityRail knew this and wanted to rectify this problem using a couple super safe services patrolled by guards. What could go wrong? Transit officers are a rather controversial topic. Railcorp created the unit in 2002 to replace the Chubb security guards at train stations. I'm not going to go into the complex legal powers of transit officers. All that I'll say is that despite them having no power to arrest people, they were trained with the same methods of prison guards and would frequently abuse their power. An example is this man who saw an unconscious person at Town Hall Station, went over to help him out, and were thanked by the transit officers by being attacked by them, pushed to the ground, handcuffed and knocked unconscious 3 times. Then the Railcorp boss said this about it.
Our investigation shows at the moment that they've acted correctly and within their powers and professionally, yes.
You've seen the vision, have you?
I haven't seen the vision of that second one.
So how could you comment on that case?
And that's what I'm saying, that's what I've been told.
But you're the boss. You knew what we're going to talk about today. I made it very clear in that letter. You knew I was going to talk about Mark Girvin's case today, yet the boss of Railcorp doesn't take the time to watch the vision.
And I will not go into any more specifics, details of the cases.
That speaks volumes.
On September 22nd, 2010, it was announced that CityRail would start a new type of service for nighttime commuters heading from the city into the suburbs, complementing the night ride bus services. They would operate on Friday and Saturday nights, using Millenniums and Oscars. The trains would have 1 or 2 transit officers on each carriage, and only have the middle 4 cars open. This was so that not only would the officers have less space to cover and worry about, but if fare evaders wanted to do the old trick of just walking through the train away from the officers, it would be made virtually impossible. The services would be marked with a G on timetables. Services would begin on October 18th with single services on the Airport and East Hills line, now to T8, the South line, now to T2, sort of, the Western line to Penrith, now to T1, and the South Coast line towards Kiama. The Newcastle and Central Coast line, now named the Central Coast and Newcastle line, would have double services disconnected from the others, heading from Newcastle to Wyong. The positive reception, the program would be expanded the following year. On March 18th, my birthday, in 2011, several new Guardian services would begin, with single services on the regional Hunter line to Talara, now the Hunter line, part of the Intercity network, Eastern Suburbs and Illawarra line to Cronulla, now to T4, the Bankstown line to Liverpool, now to T3, the Inner West line, now defunct, to Bankstown, and on the Western line up to Richmond, now part of the T1. A Friday-only service was introduced on the Northern Line via the Epping Chatswood Rail Link, partly now to T9, partly now to City Metro, and a Saturday-only service for the North Shore Line, now to T1, not to mention an extra Saturday service on the South Line. As far as I know, there is no evidence that Waratah trains were ever used for the Guardian services. However, maybe there were. I don't know. This all sounds great until you realise the many other problems with this plan. Crime would never happen on these services at all. Criminals would have done at least a tad of research before committing their crimes, and seeing that a bunch of officers would be on these trains at these times, they would have known not to go on them. Some regular commuters didn't like being eyed down by the guards the whole ride and avoided the trains entirely, putting them at risk. Not to mention that the rest of the network was still being ripped apart by vandals. 2012 was the worst year for vandalism and graffiti in CityRail history, and these services had done nothing, not to mention that they couldn't legally do much. A Facebook page called "Where Are the Transit Officers At" didn't really help much. Police would start to slowly be introduced on the network as the CityRail Sydney trains handover happened, and the Guardian services were all withdrawn on the 10th of July 2014, with the phasing out of transport officers entirely by the end of 2013. The campaign called Operation Rolling Shield was created, and forcing police onto different trains based on demand 2 weeks before the Guardian services were eliminated. This also meant that police would be controlling bus services too, mainly in the Northern Beaches area. The Guardian services are an interesting bit of late night Sydney Trains history. In fact, as I write this, it has hit 10 PM. Now. Alright, I'm going to bed. See you later, and stay safe.